Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Signal Hour where you get, well, all of the news that's not fit to print elsewhere. We'll go through it. We are touring the signal that's actually out there. Crazy times we live in. Hello to everybody who's tuned in. We see Germany here, Australia, California, wherever you're coming in from, welcome. And we're going to be talking today about, well, is it time for a national divorce? This is a topic that's come up before, a concept that's come up before, and this will apply whether you're in Australia or Germany or any other place like that, because I think we're all facing the same issue. It's between, as we've talked about repeatedly, those who live in a world of abstractions and those who live in a world of reality. Very grossly speaking, at the last election cycle in the US, it was really a vote total between those who live in a world of abstractions and those who live in the world of reality. Those who make PowerPoints and take gender studies and all of that for their livelihoods, and those who have to wake up at 4 a.m, make sure the cows are milked and that the HVAC is working again. So that's the basic breakdown. And there comes a time in a relationship when it's just over. Right. I mean, you can part amicably. It doesn't mean this has to be a bitter contested divorce with nasty divorce lawyers, but it does mean that there comes a time where you have to call an audible and just say, maybe this is over. And if it is, then you have to sort of sort out the details. Who gets the kids? Who's paying who alimony? Who gets the house? Who keeps the friends? There's a lot of things to sort out in all of that. So with that, hey, Evie, good to see you here today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes.
Good to be here.
We're all here together, and we're going to be talking about this thing here. Let's do this, Evie. So is it time for a national divorce?
Oh, all I saw was time for a divorce. You freaked me out.
Well, that would be a little callous to spring it on you here on the Signal Hour.
Time for a national divorce. Yes, I think.
Yeah.
I feel that sentiment. Does
All right.
Anybody else?
Well, let's talk about it. And of course, this is live. And so we read the comments as best we can. There's two of us in the studio. We're trolling through, watching the comments. When we see good ones, when we see them, that's the key part. We'll pull them up and talk about them and engage you with those and ask questions and things. This is live. So here we go into our live presentation. Evie, I wanted to start here with this idea that Gottman, a relationship, what would you call him? Counselor, psychiatrist? I don't know.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
He's the relationship
a very
guy.
well-known guy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he created what he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the 4 horsemen of a relationship. And if you have these 4 things on the left, and I don't want to go into antidotes right now because that's a separate conversation. What I want to be doing here today, Evie, is trying to figure out with you, when we look at various things with other people's help in the audience, are we noticing things like criticism,
verbally attacking personality or character?
Yeah, can we detect that in anybody? Any of the clips we'll be showing today, would we detect that there's any criticism? Okay, you know what? A relationship can survive criticism.
That's true.
It's okay. A little bit of criticism, unless it's just like relentless, haranguing, nagging.
Honesty.
Just like somebody's always beating on you. Criticism alone can completely undermine a relationship. But a little criticism survivable, but contempt, zero contempt is survivable.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Contempt is the death of a relationship for sure.
Yeah, that little sneery thing you do with your upper lip, like not you, I mean, but when somebody like, right? Okay.
So I guess defensiveness is another one. Victimizing yourself to ward off a perceived attack and reverse the blame.
Darbo.
Oh, yeah.
Darbo. Yeah.
And stonewalling, withdrawing to avoid conflict and convey disapproval, distance, and separation. So you kind of punish people.
Yeah.
With your absence almost.
Yeah, that's the family structure I grew up in. We were like full on WASP stonewallers, professional. Like these were fine. The Peruvian, builders of Machu Picchu had nothing on the stone walls we could erect in our family. I'm unlearning that behavior as best I can with your help. So that's all good. But so that's what we're going to be looking for here is those 4 things over there. Okay. So yeah, that stuff right there.
It is. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And under contempt, it says attaching sense of self. No, that's attacking. That's a typo. Sorry. All right. So you found this one, Evie. I thought this gentleman did a really good job sort of explaining, well, what democracy ought to be, I
So
think.
the Tesla you just vandalized, let's say that the owner is a Trump supporter. Congrats, you got your guy. Now that person probably likes Trump more than ever. Let's say actually that they voted for Kamala Harris. Now that person is way more likely to support Trump. And on top of all of this, you are now at risk for being charged with being a domestic terrorist. It's funny how you guys call us evil, but you never have to worry about us vandalizing your property because we disagree with you. The reason you don't see that many Trump bumper stickers is because people know that Democrats are more likely to vandalize your property if they disagree with you. Y'all claim to be the side that's fighting for democracy, and yet you seem to forget that democracy means coexisting peacefully with people who you disagree with. And yet here you guys are.
I like that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Democracy
that struck me too.
is coexisting peacefully with people you disagree with. It's actually to me, that's the definition of democracy.
Right. I wonder what people think it means.
Yeah, yeah, well,
I
so
mean, just because that gets thrown around a lot.
Well, you hear, oh, we have to defend our democracy, our democracy. Oh, we have to defend. We're here defending democracy. So Evie and I will talk about how we actually went to one of those Doge protests, anti-Elon protests on
the Tesla takedown.
Tesla takedown.
That's what it was called.
Nationwide, and I think it went to some other countries, but it was really big in the U.S. That was on Sunday, this past Sunday of this last week. So we were just there. I got a couple clips from that we can show.
Oh, great.
But this is the important part, because I think this is important right here.
You claim to be the side that's fighting for democracy, and yet you seem to forget that democracy means coexisting peacefully with people who you disagree with. And yet here you guys are vandalizing other people's property, not because you even necessarily disagree with their politics, but because you disagree with the politics of the CEO of the car company that manufactured their car. That is insane.
It's like, well, he reminds me of Nicolas Cage. He's got a little bit of that.
A little bit. But that's such an important point here. That when this has been bandied around a lot, and I have now in I break out in hives when somebody says, "Oh, we're defending our democracy," because they're using "our" in the possessive sense of the word, right? Like, this is our house.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, our democracy, not our collective
democracy. Right.
Our democracy, which when you peel it back is like, well, that democracy seems to be you taking other people's stuff and living off of it, and then deciding that it all has to go your way, and then you're happy with it reasonably, or you throw a hissy fit and you break stuff, you burn stuff, and you smash your little fists on the table. That's again, this is a very difficult place to be in relationship with. So
that is the truth.
And by the way, Jochen Bremer here says,
hello from Dortmund in Germany. Thanks a lot of the balanced discussion and topics. Go on, please.
Will do.
Hello.
Right. Hello, and hello, Germany. So there's a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about in Germany too at some point. But this is the thing here, Evie, is you see this sticker a lot.
Oh yeah, that's been around for a long time.
Particularly, this is on a Prius hybrid. Coexist, man. It's like we're all going to get along peacefully. So this is the insane part. The left here has had this sticker, and this is their concept set. We're the peaceful ones. We are outraged because Republicans in their mind are the nasty, dangerous ones, but it's pure projection because they're the ones who mostly peacefully protest and burn stuff down, attack cars, even of their compatriots, and do other illogical things like that, right?
Yes, they do.
All right. So this was us pulling in. I edited this, Evie. So I chopped it. Sorry for the crude editing. This is just me chopping it up and snag it, if you know what I'm talking about. It's like not the world's not a video editor. But here we are. Evie and I have just driven up to Northampton out. Where? I don't know where. Let's pull in. Let's take this next.
Yeah, take the next right.
We are the Spark.
Would be.
Wow. We live in communist country, apparently.
Yeah, there were a lot of people there. I was surprised at the turnout.
Wow. You hear all that beeping? all that beeping back there. So there were a lot of cars driving by. This is the 4-lane road that goes into strip malls at Big Box Central, right? You got a Michael's and Home Depot's and Dick's Sporting Goods and whatever, right? It's a
heavy traffic area.
Yeah. So, but the beeping was nonstop.
It's true.
Pretty much.
It seemed like people were, honking their horn in agreement for the most part. Not always, but
no, there were a few middle fingers out there.
Yeah. A couple.
We saw a few of those, but so that's what we drove into. We get out of our car, and we are. And the first thing is, well, I mean, make it make sense.
An American car made by American workers, purchased by American citizens, and hated by the American left because Elon wants to save the American taxpayers money.
That's
good.
I mean,
that kind of is what it is, isn't it?
It is. That is kind of the it's a very bizarre thing to try and wrap your head around logically, because this is illogical on its surface, right? It just doesn't make sense. So if you had to guess at this point, after all we've been through, what is it that they're actually protesting against? Like, why is Elon the lightning rod? Besides, somebody told them that he was supposed to be that, and they just turned the dial and programmed 2 minutes of hate into these poor people's minds.
Right.
But just pretending that didn't happen, what's the actual substance? Like, why is Elon a Nazi for digging into our payment systems in the U.S. government?
Well, I think the way I see it, the people that were at this protest that we went to, a lot of them are just taking their cue from those that are in positions of power. And if you remember, right from the get-go, the Democrats, those on the left, were not even cordially nice. I mean, remember at Trump's inauguration, there were people, he was talking about things he was going to do. Nominally, they were potentially very good things for the country, and they were just sitting there not clapping. I mean, people in leadership positions have a big role to sort of
set the
tone for how people are going to treat others. And honestly, I think the divide has just only worsened since we've seen people freaking out in Washington since this Doge was enacted. And so I think it begins there on some level, but it also, I think, is potentially the free floating anxiety and the other things that people are feeling at this time, whether they're feeling pinched economically or stressed out in other places of their life. This is a dumping ground for them because they haven't learned other responsible ways of handling themselves. And so this is just where they go to beat on somebody for the sake of getting that energy out.
But the energy doesn't seem to be dissipating, seems to be sort of amplifying potentially.
Yep.
Okay. Well, hey, very quickly before we move on, I just want to, because this is Wednesday, tomorrow is Thursday, Friday is the 4th, Saturday 5th, Sunday 6th. Evie and I are going to be down in Atlanta at the IMA conference. IMA is the Independent Medical Alliance, formerly the FLCCC, those doctors, the dissident doctors, and I've been a big supporter and on the board and helping them out. And so we're going to be down there. And if you're there, come say hi, shake our hand.
Yes, we'd love to see you.
Come grab lunch with us on one of the days. And
are there still tickets available for this?
I think they could sneak a few people in. I think.
Okay, we
might.
But
if you could sneak in at the last minute, good luck. But if you can't, that's sorry. But if you're going to be there, I just wanted to say we're going to be there. Love to see you. So be sure to say hi.
Yeah.
Because we love meeting up with folks. All right. Okay. So we pull up. We park it behind that gas station you just saw us drive past. There's all these beeping, yelling people over there. The first thing is just very obvious. Here's what we know. We're at the Elon thing. They're mad at Elon, and so this is interesting because they have blocked all of the charging stations, and this even is a Prius, and this is a hybrid Synergy drive, right? This is actually a Bolt EV. So they like the EV concept, but they are blocking the EV charging stations so that the Tesla people can't actually charge. So got hybrids here. We've got, this looks like a Honda hybrid truck here. Or is this the electric truck? We just got a regular old Toyota here, and they are, an Lexus, blocking all the charging stations in protest.
And
Makes
this is
sense
a
of that.
major like throughway when
Yeah.
you get off the highway. If you
Yeah.
do have an electric car, this is a stop. that
Well,
you
and
can
we were there right when it
utilize.
was starting to break up a little bit, and some of these cars had left and Teslas had pulled in because they need to charge,
Mhm,
right? So they can go places. So
mhm.
very disruptive. So when the left, if I could call it that, say we're going to protest, they damage things, they want to inconvenience you, they want to block roads, glue their hands to things, they want to destroy things, they want to put paint onto building surfaces and soup onto paintings, they want to
Mhm.
block the charging station so you can't actually go somewhere. Who knows what daily inconvenience that leads into somebody's life who needs to charge
Mhm.
to go pick somebody up on time or whatever. And this was a good question here. We didn't determine this. I couldn't figure this out.
How many of those are paid protesters? I wanted to know that too. And I was looking for signs,
Mm-hmm.
the handmade signs, to see if there were duplicates or if there was a certain phrase going around, anything to sort of help us understand who might have been
Yeah.
funding this or behind it. We did know that the Indivisible project.
Yes, they organized this.
They
for sure.
organized it.
Yeah.
And then also something more locally called the Disruption Project was also associated with that somehow. But clearly it was weird because I saw some other tweets about this in the days that followed, and there were places all over the country that did this.
Mhm.
But miraculously, like, people just showed up and then disappeared.
Yeah,
right
2 o'clock.
at 2
Oh, I'm
on the dot.
I'm only paid till 2. I'm
Right.
out of here.
Which kind of makes you wonder if it actually is something where people are being
Mhm.
paid to attend.
Well, some were, I
Not
guess.
all of them, I'm sure.
I don't
but-
know about this one in particular. I don't have any data one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, there are plenty of these type of people that live in this area anyway. This
Yep.
is where Chris and I previously lived, and we
Yep.
got out just in time.
But I think Amy's got the right phrase at the very
yeah.
end there. Right?
Elon's fight against fraud and money laundering is fuel to the fire of his insistence to expose the authoritarian left. Yes.
Well, they are authoritarian, right? Because what they want is they don't want to listen to you. They want to shout you down. They have no interest in your point of view,
Mhm.
right? So I conducted 2 interviews there, right? And with 2 liberal white women, just how it turned out. And it was kind of, well, it was 100% white to begin with, and it was close to 50-50 male female.
Yeah, that was a pretty
Probably.
good split. It's pretty balanced.
But I'm going to say the median age was definitely tipped older.
Oh yeah, it was like 60s,
Mhm.
like 50s
Yeah.
to 70s maybe.
So I talked with these 2 ladies, right? And one of them said, "Oh, I don't know if I have anything to say," and then went on a literal 15-minute, I swear to God, press the play button, 15 minutes of Rachel Maddow talking points. Elon was, what was he doing? Remember, he was, help me remember some of these. He was going to deny women the right to vote. He was stealing people's social security checks. He was eliminating free speech. He was destroying democracy. Said that several times. Yep.
Are you talking about the first woman?
The first woman. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but it was just this stream.
Yeah.
And she displayed zero, what I would call interpersonal curiosity. Like, oh, who are you?
Yeah.
Why are you asking this question? Where do you stand? Help me. Let's find where we have some common ground.
Sure.
It was just, no. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. And if you don't share this point of view, well, you detected it more than I did. Did you feel welcome there?
No, actually. And it was the first time I'd been around a group of people where I internally had this alarm go off where I'm like, I'm not like they can sense that I'm not like them.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels a little bit dangerous. Like it was a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like we went in, we're not holding signs. We're dressed how we normally dress. We're not trying to make any sort of statement either way, but I felt like they could somehow tell that we weren't part of the mind virus and the blob was going to eat us up and spit us out,
Yeah. Well, that's in no small measure, Evie, because you are a unicorn. And
oh my gosh. Really?
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Eli.
I love you, Maureen.
You are. I mean, you stood out just from physical attractiveness. And I'm making a point here, which is they actually go out of their way, I feel, to dress down. Drab colors. A lot of them look like they were dressed right out of Salvation Army, right?
Not that there's anything wrong with thrifting.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But they have a look That's
It's
sort of
true.
how you have to look to be fit in, right? So if
Mhm.
you'd had a butch haircut,
No
know,
makeup,
no makeup, just maybe some,
lots of piercings.
some color in your hair and some really baggy clothes that de-accentuated that you were a gender,
A woman.
a woman
Mhm.
in particular.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you would have gotten further.
I might have fit in. I could tell that they
Mhm.
didn't. There was an otherness that
Yep.
that they sensed in us. And it was interesting, that woman that you were first speaking with, she was an attorney,
Yes.
and a librarian, I
Yes,
guess.
that famous combo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But that surprised me, because you'd figure somebody with that kind of degree would also understand that you can't make those sort of statements without some evidence to back it up. I don't
Well,
know.
most of
It was
them
shocking.
were wrong. Remember, she said, "Oh, and Elon won by the
A thin
thinnest of
margin.
margins.
Yeah.
It's not really, doesn't really count, because it was so
That's
thin."
crazy.
It's like, that's a little delusional. Actually, a lot of her stuff was fully debatable, if not factually wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no room to have a conversation. Maybe not the right place. I get it.
Yeah.
All that, but
How did those recordings come out? Did you pull them
little
in?
little noisy because all the beeping.
Too much?
We are. Yeah. By the way, there it is. This is your left-wing starter set. Okay, if you wanted to get a car, your Prius would have the coexist sticker on there, which means everything except getting along peacefully, democratically with your fellow humans.
Right.
Oh, and yeah, I'm gonna have to see that one in the lower right.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to cross that one out because they obviously don't say no to war anymore. There were Ukraine flags there. Like, suddenly being left means,
Oh, hybrid cars too. You got to get rid of that one.
oh yeah, hybrid. No, suddenly, like, this is the astonishing, if not scary part, is how quickly their so-called belief systems that they were violently emotionally attached to last week are diametrically opposed. 100% not the same beliefs they hold this week, including warfare, trusting pharma, all that stuff. Now, that second lady I was talking to, I said, well, I'm trying to find common ground. I'm like, well, how do you, because obviously this is a woman who would be caring about like poisons in food and sick children, because, they care about the children, not children with like names, but I mean, the children, right? Okay. So I said, well, how do you feel about RFK? And she's just like, and you watched her mind do these flips, because she was like, okay, I have to be against him because he's part of the Trump team. So I have to be against this. She's like, well, I really feel like he should have, he's not a doctor. Like,
he's not qualified.
Not qualified. So, like, how does being a doctor qualify you to head up a multi-100,000 person agency? Because I know a lot of doctors. I would not want them running businesses for the most part. Sorry, doctors that I know. They're very good at something, but let's just say their interpersonal human skills on balance, not the best. just saying, okay? But again, it selects for a certain type and all that, and you want your doctor.
Sure.
You know what? I want my surgeon to be a cocky SOB. Bring it, right? But anyway, so that whole idea, she was like, oh yeah, it's no, not a doctor. I said, well, but since he's been in office, we already got rid of red dye number 3. We're working on the other ones, which are overt toxins. And so remember what she did? She said, well, that's really a problem of capitalism. So I'm thinking she went into this whole diatribe about how we have to fix capitalism. Like, we couldn't find common ground about getting poison out of kids' cereals is a common, we didn't even have that common ground.
No, we were trying, and the way it started wasn't just like,
'Cause I
how
was
do you
being
feel
nice.
about RFK Jr.? It was like, what do you think about the fact that our country or our nation is one of the sickest, and we spend the most on healthcare, and we have the worst outcomes?
Yep.
Right. And what is going on where we all have these metabolic disorders and everybody's a mess? And yeah, she couldn't connect those dots.
Well,
at all.
I was just trying to find common ground, because that's my normal sort of debate style or negotiating style is,
Yeah,
well, where
course.
do our circles overlap? Because they don't overlap on context. We were lacking like shared context, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's no there. How do you start? Like, if we wanted to get to know this woman and have a decent conversation, where do you find anything that you could agree on? I guess we could have agreed it was sort of a gray, shady day outside, but beyond that, I don't know.
I don't know. So anyway, and we disagree on war and all kinds of things now too, apparently. Okay, here's the complete left-wing package. with indivisible and peacefully coexist, stuck right next to each other on a Prius. It's perfect. Homophobia is a social disease down there.
Cross out science.
Yeah, there are all kinds of things going. I don't know. At any rate, so that's.
So this continues to be shocking to us. For some reason, it shocks us. It shocks Chris. It shocks me too. I mean,
well, this is where we grew up. We grew up in and around this.
This was like home for us, and now people seemingly have lost their minds, and we don't understand what's happening. It's
so if you can't have common ground, remember those 4 horsemen, right? So when it comes to contempt, when it comes to criticism, when it comes to defensiveness, stonewalling, it's really hard if you don't have any territory that you share. Like can we all agree that harming children is bad? Right? Hopefully you'd have something you could go, okay, yeah, I like clean air. You know, there should be something you can get together on. But if every time you're like, oh, I like clean air, if suddenly Trump had done something for clean air, they reflexively are going to be like, well,
but not that.
Clean air is actually a racist construct with intersectionality, gender undertones, sour tones.
Something like that.
It'll be something. All right. So, but remember, Evie, you know, my definition of a cult is an organized system of thinking that works against your better interests. So it's a negative for you. You adopt this way of thinking, it works against you. So I'd like to get your view on whether you think this woman's system of thinking is doing her any favors right now.
Friendly reminder, as a white American woman, I will no longer be dating white men. I'm looking for anything other than a white man. Okay? Just a heads up.
Okay.
I don't even need to say anything.
Come on, say something.
No.
Come on.
She thinks that she's taking something so hot away from everybody else. It's kind of sad.
Well, I at a minimum, I think somebody ought to gently tell her she kind of looks like a white dude.
Oh, she does. She does.
Just saying.
No,
so I'm going to go with all 4 on this. I'm going to go.
Right.
I think she displayed criticism, contempt, some defensiveness, some withdrawing. Like it's all on display here, I think, in this one spot.
You're right. It is.
Right.
She's doing all those things.
Yep.
And to be fair, I am too, you know?
Yep.
I'm holding her with those same feelings, which is what I'm kind of struggling with lately is like, well,
but hold on. For me, I feel like I can ridicule this because at its surface, saying I am anti-racist, so I'm not going to date any white men is the most racist thing you can say. Right?
Yes, it is. It's judging people by their skin.
Yeah, it's taking all white men and lumping them in one spot. And what this lady seems to be unaware of is that I could find her from every single race, creed, color, a bell curve of people, some of whom are awesome, some of whom are complete
jerks,
useless, should not inhabit the face of the planet people. And it's just distributed evenly. Welcome to humans. It's just a bell curve. But she's basically saying 2 camps, there's good types of people and bad types of people. So this whole I hate white men is also her saying, as a white person, I kind of hate myself too. So this self-hating, where did that come from? That's an organized system of thinking. It's very negative. And she just cut her pool of potential dates as a woman in age where it gets more difficult, maybe to find a mate because of the odds, more women than men because of biology and death rates and things like that. So she's just taken herself out of the dating pool if that was going to be a source of contentment or enjoyment or satisfaction for her.
Sure.
So that's an organized system of thinking that's negative for her, I say.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, I find myself just soul searching because I feel towards these people the way they probably feel towards me. Like, I'm not the victim of them.
Yep.
In other words, and I'm just trying to sort of parse through that and understand if I'm a part of the problem, right? Because I feel, I just feel this gross. Like I want to get away from these people. Like I don't really want to be around them. I don't want to spend time with them. I don't really want to hear them go on and on about all this BS that doesn't really matter, you know? and I'm not interested in getting to know them. And it's okay to feel that way, I know. But anyway.
But I'm going to guess, I'm just going to project here, do my own projecting, that, again, my context overlap with this woman is going to be low. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, here's my evidence for why not just the past election, but all elections since the adoption of electronic voting machines have been illegitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Statistically impossible, improbable to the point of impossible. Like, you have to be really, you have to be a special, you have to put your last $10 into Powerball kind of irrational, right? I'm going to make it, right?
Like, I know. That woman actually that we spoke to, one of the women that we spoke to was talking about that, remember?
Oh, yeah.
She was saying something about the elections and how...
Oh, I was trying to find common ground with her.
Yeah.
I was trying to say, could we agree that having election integrity
is important?
Because I was kind of hoping she was going to, like, that was common ground, because I was hoping she was going to default into, yeah, Trump stole the last election. The other one before that was totally fair. But if she could at least admit one of them wasn't fair,
yeah,
then we could work off of that as a starting point. No, we couldn't work off of that. She's like, oh, no, the machines are pretty good. Like, oh, gosh. Okay,
what
no context. All right. How about this? So this is Heather Hay. She's talking is the wife of Brett Weinstein, talking at Portland State University. And she's saying to me what are very uncontroversial biological facts. And then we get to see the reactions.
James argues, accurately, that there are differences between men and women. This is a strange position to be in, to be arguing for something that is so universally and widely accepted within biology. What is not as widely accepted is that culture is also evolutionary, but I'm going to argue that biology and culture are both evolutionary. Let's look at differences between men and women that are explicitly anatomical and physiological. Are men taller than women on average? Does anyone take offense at that fact? Are you irritated?
There's always a standout.
So I would say you could be irritated by it. You could be irritated by the fact that women have to be the ones to gestate and lactate. You could be irritated by a lot of truths. But taking offense is a response that is rejection of reality. So men and women are different on height. They're different on muscle mass. They're different on where fat is deposited on our bodies, right? Our brains are also different. So there.
Security. This is what happens. Oh, did they shut off the volume? Can you hear? Can everybody hear?
He's a piece of shit. That's not okay. Even the women in there have been brainwashed.
It should not listen to fascism. It should not be tolerated in civil society. Nazis are not welcome in civil society.
Okay.
Wait, what?
What?
That went off the rails
We
real
jumped
quick.
the shark pretty quick on that. So noticing that men on average are taller than women, and that muscle mass is different, and that we deposit fat, thankfully, differently on our bodies, and all of that makes you a fascist, and Nazis are not welcome in civil society. How do you make that jump? How do you go from there to there? Think of the level of brainwashing that has to happen. By the way, you remember that woman's complaint? Did you hear that? Listen to this.
He's a piece of shit. That's not okay. Even the women in there have been brainwashed.
That's the complaint.
The women have been brainwashed.
Who's been brainwashed? Right? If you've gotten yourself cornered into the point where you can't notice the objective reality that men are taller than women and stronger without that being a Nazi and saying I must be brainwashed for observing those things, might be that you're the one who's having the brainwashing issue here. I mean, but this is the world we live in now.
It's projection everywhere.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy. How does this end?
Oh, yeah, well, let's go.
It should not listen to fascism. It should not be tolerated in civil society. Nazis are not welcome in civil society.
By the way, that's the mating call of the beta male right there. You just heard that in all its glory.
Fuck the police! Cover the people! Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to raise our voices. The conversation's going to go on.
thank you. You got rid of those people.
Let me be crystal clear. Let me be crystal clear. People do not have the right to tell you what you can and cannot listen to.
Correct.
People do not have the right, fringe elements of society do not have the right to hold you hostage to discourse. This is a university. If we cannot have this conversation here, we can't have it anywhere. We have to be able to talk about it. No issues will solve themselves. That sort of behavior is unacceptable.
How about that?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And by the way, so this is, I think, part of the reason that the left is, those people, we'll call them the protesters, they're actually scared because they just found out they're not in the majority, but they'd been such bullies, such tyrants, such emotionally explosive, voluble people that people just sort of backed up from, and they never got any pushback, and they mistakenly thought in their delusion we're in the majority. I think they thought they were in the majority, but they're not in the majority, and they're finding that out, and it's driving them cray-cray.
Well, it's hard to tell, right? I mean, if you're just watching things online, you could mistakenly think that this is what's raging all around the world when maybe that's not true. You know, it just rises to the top because that's how the algorithm works. You know, whatever's the most extreme, whatever's the hottest topic, that's what gets elevated, not because it's more important or because it's right, even, or correct, right?
Yeah.
Factually.
Yeah,
So-
we did. We saw full cognitive dissonance on display.
Daisy said, "This is why I'm homeschooling right here.
Yeah.
My teenagers and will not be sending them to university."
Well, I could understand that if, you know, you're sending them to university where you have to spend $250,000
For them to get brainwashed.
to get brainwashed, that you have to spend
Yeah.
another $250,000 fixing that. That's not a good investment.
Mhm.
That does not work out. All right, so let me go on to this then. So Evie, I think we saw defensiveness, right? They had to victimize themselves, right? Oh, this is Nazis. Blah, 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 blah. We saw the stonewalling, the obvious withdrawing themselves, right? They have to walk off. So these sorts of behaviors.
I saw contempt too.
Yeah, I think we could include that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I like the idea. This is the fringe, right? We just have to know that somebody has to stand up against the fringe. So congrats to Heather Haying, the way she goes about that. She's just calm, just delivers the facts, and these people walk out.
And this was several years ago, no?
Yeah. So how about this one? Let's listen on
Found out
this.
today that somebody that I work with is a conservative, and he's somebody who's really intelligent, and he's somebody who works in climate tech. As a super smart guy, somebody I would never have thought was conservative, and apparently he is. And it's surprising, and it's disgusting. But what's most surprising to me is the level of sudden hatred that I have for him. Sudden hatred for this man who I used to respect suddenly just went boop, and I hate him now.
Whoa.
All right.
Went from
Mental illness.
respecting and, you know, like kind of a nice guy, good at his job, to hating. Viscerally hating. Wait, can I have your phone there for a second?
On my phone?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is the behavior. Okay, here's how I feel. I'll take that again. Not quite the right attitude. Okay, here's how I feel about this.
I know.
It's this
So on display.
It's so
It's neurotic,
narcissistic,
Yes.
self-centered, absorbed, all of that stuff. But just the whole went to instant hatred, high emotions, contempt, all of that stuff. Now hates this guy because she found out he's a conservative. Guarantee she has no idea actually what his positions are and hasn't really thought through some of those positions. She's just absorbed this idea that this is the correct way to think and this is the incorrect way to think. And if you think this way, you're part of the in crowd and you get to belong. Of course, she lives with that underlying existential terror, which is, what if I accidentally say something wrong in front of my friends?
Excommunicated.
Instant shunning, you know, and you're out. That's terror to live in that construct, I think. But
this also goes to show what they programmed underneath. Like to go from 0 to I effing hate him.
Yes.
Like he was a smart, intelligent, kind guy, and all of a sudden, like that to me is indications that we're being manipulated and messed with
Yeah.
on a level that we can't fully appreciate.
Yeah.
It's been hidden from us.
All right. So, but we're getting to this concept of the national divorce. So in this, how do you begin to reform, repair? How would this conservative gentleman, for instance, knowing nothing about him, begin to repair that relationship with this person?
I mean, is it on him?
Well, assuming it shouldn't be, obviously. Fair question. But what are your first steps? What do you do?
I got nothing, honestly. I don't know where you'd start.
That's when it's just time to say, hey, this isn't working out between us. We should not live in this under the same roof. We should something.
Yeah, but what are we gonna do? Like, we're all intermingled. It's not like at least when we had the Civil War before, there was North and South. There was a delineation where you knew where each side was. This would be hellacious. How can we break up? I don't understand it. I mean, we are all interspersed with each other, and we might be in our own little bubbles, you know. It might be blue and red dotted around our neighborhood. I don't think it really follows. I guess there are maps that show that maybe more rural, it tends to be
rural, urban,
more conservative, and the opposite. But I don't know. How do you divorce?
I don't know.
People you live next to.
See what Jason says there?
Oh, Jason said she's broken and beyond repair, it seems. I would agree.
Yeah, that's a walk away situation. You just sometimes got to walk away. Like you can't fix that.
No.
There's some things and it's not your job to fix it either, right?
Well, that's the thing.
Like you could spend a lot. Like
it's codependent.
There's some home rehab projects where the right answer is the bulldozer, right? It's just not worth trying to repair every termited stud.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that. So,
but it's hard. I'm an empathic person. And for me, when I see somebody like that, I can tell that they're in some kind of distress, and it telegraphs to me in my body. Like I can sense that she's uncomfortable, but it also is, I have to watch it, that I don't go down a codependent place of trying to placate that, you know. I think a boundary is sufficient in these instances, and to say, no, come back to me when you, when you can be calm and collected and
all right.
talk.
Here's an example of somebody I think Evie could be potentially fixed. She's trying to go for context. Let's listen in.
I have a theory that Trump supporters have not traveled much in their lives, or do not even own a passport. I would love to see a survey taken of Democrats versus Republicans and the number of countries that each person has traveled to, and for how long they've spent out of the country. Because I think that the Trump supporters seriously lack understanding of how the rest of the world lives, and think that the way things are done in America is the way that things are done in the rest of the world. No, America is in the minority. For example, the way that laundry is done here. Most of the world do their laundry by hand. Clothes are washed by hand and then they're hung out to dry. Even in England, most people don't use dryers. They air dry.
She's not starting out strong, I don't think.
Most of the people in the world do their laundry by hand?
Really? In Germany?
Maybe not Germany. No, I've been there. They have washers and dryers.
Spain?
Same thing, yeah.
Italy?
Same.
France?
No, they totally.
Russia?
Yep, washers and dryers. Yeah.
No, it's
China. Yeah, it's kind of
Japan.
A thing. Totally, they are the cleanest people on the planet.
Shoot, I can't think of any. I mean, I'm sure
Korea?
people do try to save money by not using dryers and hanging.
I see somebody
here
here's from Australia, so I'm going to blame Australia. She must have gone to Australia. It's all hand washing laundry down there. I know nothing about it, so because I haven't been to Australia yet, so I'm blaming Australia for this one.
Go.
I do too.
Go.
Would we be arrested if we went there? Do you think?
That's a good question.
Because I said some mean stuff about Dan Andrews. Well, accurate.
Oopsie.
But potentially mean.
I know.
Don't know. All right, it's all about the laundry. Okay. All right, reformable though. She was reaching for context. Like,
okay.
You know, that because you've gone to a foreign country like Club Med, that means you've been to the Dominican Republic, potentially. So you know something about it because you had a black server, right?
I have a
So anyway, by the way, Evie, we talked about stochastic violence before, which is when people out there in CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, et cetera, sort of suggest, wouldn't it be terrible if something happened to Elon? And then next thing you know, you have these people firebombing cars.
Mm.
But you also get situations like this one, right, where this person is driving along and it's a Tesla. So they have all those different car cameras on there, right? You got a side, front, left, right, all that. And then this car wheels up, decides, oh no, this is a Tesla person, angles off.
What?
Cuts them off. They try to come around, cuts them further, and then hops out the car, right? Because they're that angry now. Okay. Pounding on the car. You're going to see that maybe this person should get a laundry. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh geez.
Gross.
Yeah, he's a plumber, obviously.
Is he doing damage to her car right now?
Yes, banging away on it. And then somebody else comes along to try and say, hey, can you just settle down, buddy? Because there's a 61-year-old widow, a woman in the car, right? And then,
was that the woman doing it?
No, that was the guy. See the guy over there on the left?
Okay.
And he's all angry and everything. So I'm going to submit to you that at some point this happens and somebody in a Tesla has a gun.
Right.
And very rightly says, I'm protecting myself from a deranged, angry person, and things are going to escalate from there.
And then we get the BLM riots all over again, but just for some poor fool who decided to assault someone who refused to take it.
Yeah, and if this guy was the martyr, I mean, just the protest signs write themselves, just a big crack. Oh no.
The cracks are showing in our democracy.
This is where we are. It's fairly deranged. We're now seeing arson attacks out there as well.
Right. Fire crews responded just before 6 a.m. today, containing the blaze, but not before it scorched the building's entryway and filled the headquarters with smoke. Spray painted across the scene, ICE equals KKK. Republican chairwoman Amy Barella called it a politically motivated act of hate and part of a growing wave of anti-GOP violence. Barella.
That's the GOP headquarters in Albuquerque.
Really?
Yeah.
Barella, a direct assault on our freedom, our values, freedoms, and right to political expression. Federal investigators from the FBI and ATF are now involved. The Democratic Party of New Mexico condemned the attack, calling for those responsible to be held accountable.
Yeah. Albuquerque. At any rate,
that's insane.
The memes just write themselves.
Hey, the coexist people are burning. Shit again.
Yep. Speaking of the last one,
say no to crack.
Just say no to crack, man.
Rogue Raven. I love it.
Yeah.
Hypnicity says, my sister has a Tesla. I worry about her.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
You should worry about that because that's how it is. So, very, very, so let me just, from that, let me move into this. I call this a quick peek at the week at peak. We have a lot of content about this crazy world we're in. And so if you look at anything, so yesterday I just had to report on 108 tons of gold left COMEX. That if you don't know what's going on in the gold market and you want to know, I'm covering this. Well, I've been covering gold for a long time, so I understand the market pretty intricately, and that's happening. That's the top one. I have a piece of content comes out a couple times a week called the Fat Pipe, which is just a collection of this kind of news where I'm just assembling things and I put it into nice little organized blocks. And then we have Dave Fairtex writes a market update and also a weekly news collection. So if you like to stay on top of things, that's what's going on back at Peak Prosperity for my subscribers. And then most importantly, last Friday, also from the same week, but it's from Friday. So I'm going back. This is Wednesday. So I'm trying to go back a week. I talked about breaking the frame, which is really important. Something really big is happening. I think it explains in part why so many people are freaking out. And that frame is the US dollar for us here in the United States, but it's your fiat currency wherever you happen to live. All of them have been untethered from gold since 1971. We've all been participating in this massive delusion that you can print forever and borrow forever, and you can always kick the can down the road, and debts can always grow faster than income, and it never really comes home to roost. It's coming home to roost now. So the frame is, we have to understand that our frame of reference, if it's our fiat currency, that's the wrong frame. We need a different frame, which is, what is the relationship between an ounce of gold, a barrel of oil, a house, a car, an orange? That's the correct frame to have, with the currencies all sort of like bouncing against that. Those are in the process of breaking down right now. So that's what we were discussing. And by the way, the people who have the context in this story, that was part 2 of this. So the top one you see there, that's public. And then for the subscribers was part 2. It kind of continues. It's one long story because I had to have long form stories. But the worst is yet to come. The people who are going to survive this, who are going to thrive through it, are going to be those who have context.
And who take action early.
And who take action. You have to know what's happening. You have to see this unfolding as it is. And by the way, the most recent period of time you just came through is not a good form of context, because what we were doing with debts and all of that, we can't do that going forward as a globe, right? So this is a big global story, big giant macro story, but what do you do individually? And you can see SH or S hi-fi.
Thanks, Chris. As usual, this is aptly summarizing the topic. The fiat money system is beautifully crafted to steal people's wealth and keep them enslaved to corporations for their entire lives. A world with real money would definitely be a better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that's the kind of stuff we talk about. All these things we're talking about here in the Signal Hour are all the sort of the dots in the context of our day, but they have to be put against a frame, a backdrop. So that's what peak prosperity is all about. So, Evie, I now want to talk to you. Look, can we go through this? I love this. I think this is the most powerful Doge ad ever created.
Okay.
And thankfully, it was created by Jon Stewart.
I used to like him.
The left guy, the lefty guy. This is phenomenal. He's talking with Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein is a journalist. He wrote a book. The book was about crazy stuff going on in the government. This is just a piece of what's in that book. They're discussing $42 billion that was spent by the U.S. government to hook people up to the internet. Nobody got hooked up to the internet, and so we're just going to find out why that happened.
We have to issue the notice of funding opportunity within 180 days. That's step 1. Step 2.
So all these different steps are the steps that states have to take to begin the process, to start the process, to begin to figure out if they're eligible for any of this money. Yeah.
And it has to do with what? Getting solar?
No, for internet.
Oh, for internet.
Yeah.
That's right.
All 56 state applicants completed. Is states who want to participate must submit a letter of intent. After they do that, they can submit a request for up to $5 million in planning grants. Then the NTIA, step 4, has to review and approve and award, again, planning grants, not broadband grants, planning grants.
And it's still at the NTIA. It's still at the first step.
All right, so the NTIA must issue a NOFO within 180 days. States who want to participate must submit their letter of intent. Step 3, they can request up to $5 million in planning grants.
Just planning.
Just planning. Step 4, the requests are reviewed, approved, and awarded by the NTIA, which currently all 56, 3 years later, all 56 applicants had passed through at least step 5. It took more than 3 years. So it's a long time. States must submit a 5-year action plan. So the states kind of go back and they kind of think about how they're going to do this. And they don't just say, okay, thank you for the money. We're going to spend it. And you can see how it worked out later.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
Like, here's our 5-year action plan. Then the FCC must publish the broadband data maps before NTIA allocates funds. So having done the NOFO, the letters of intent, the request for planning grants, then the review, approval and awarding of the planning grants, then the 5-year action plans. In between that, the federal government has to put forward a map saying where it thinks we need rural broadband subsidies. And then, of course, the states need an opportunity to challenge the map for accuracy. And you can imagine this doesn't all happen in like a day. Okay.
So they've 56 applicants, $5 million each, 180-day review processes, maps, all this stuff. How many
Challenging
people?
the map.
Like I added this up carefully. 0 people have gotten a single byte of information.
Of broadband.
So
Isn't
far.
it not done?
No, it's totally not done.
There's more.
I know,
No.
but I had to take a break too, because you see Jon Stewart doing his deflective, nervous chuckles like it's just too insane. And now he's actually breaking down a little.
So then the NTIA, step 7, has to use the FCC maps to make allocation decisions. Then, having already done their letter of intent, their request for planning grants, it's hard even to talk about this, man. Step 7 is NTIA must use the FCC maps that were already challenged for allocation decisions. Then, having submitted all this, I think this one is actually quite amazing.
Yeah.
Having submitted their 5-year plans or letters of intent, step 8 is states must submit an initial proposal. An initial proposal.
What?
To the NTIA. Then,
is that the result of their $5 million planning fund? This
I
initial
assume,
proposal?
but then what was the 5-year plan?
And what the fuck did they apply for? What was their NOFO?
Like, if the 5-year action plan isn't the initial proposal, then what's the 5-year action
Forget NOFO.
plan? Okay.
MOFO.
Step 9, NTIA must review and approve each state's, again, initial proposal. By my read, we have had at least 2 initial proposals here, but that's a different issue.
Oh my God.
Step 10, states must publish their own map and allow internal challenges to their own map. So the government has published a map. They have invited the states to challenge the map. Then states have submitted initial proposals, and they then have to publish their own map and allow challenges.
Wait, who's challenging it within the state?
Well, organized interest groups, environmental group, like I don't know who specifically, but literally anybody. This is,
right.
I want to say something because it's very important I say this. This is the Biden administration's process for its own bill. They wanted this to happen.
That's the important point here.
This is the Biden administration.
And it goes on from there, and it's just. But this is the process they wanted. So this is what Doge is attacking. This is what all those people are like. Oh no, protest, Elon, what terrible. Like they want this. The process is the punishment. Like the whole idea is to consume all the money in the process. The idea is not to get poor people, broadband. That's like an ancillary thing that might happen accidentally on the back end.
No, it's the people that get to administer all of that crap.
Every step you're hearing, I hope you're hearing a cha-ching, a cash register. These are high price consultants. Maps were made. PowerPoints.
Oh, that's
plans.
Just $100 bills flying away.
Oh, just flying out the window.
This is how liberal government works now.
This is how
liberal government works now. That's the point. That is the point.
I'm gonna have to go watch the end of this if you're not gonna play.
Let's play it. Let's get there because it's crazy.
For this bill.
For their bill. This is a bill passed by Democrats with a regulatory structure written by Democratic administration. Okay.
Right.
Step 11. The NTIA must review and improve the challenge results and the final map. So the NTIA has put forward a map. The states have challenged that map. Then the states have put forward their maps, had other challenges. And now the NTIA must review and approve the challenges to the state maps. Okay. So we've done step 11, NTIA must review and approve challenge results and final map. We've lost 9 of the applicants at that point. Step 12, states must run a competitive sub-granting process.
Oh my fucking God. At step 12, after all this has been done.
Yeah, none of that could have happened along the way here. We have now lost 17 more applicants. So now 30 of 56 have completed step 12. Step 13, states must submit a final proposal. This all the proposals weren't enough to NTIA. Now that goes to 3 of 56. So we've gone in the last couple of steps from 56 had gone to this point to 3 of 56. Step 14.
We're down to 3.
The NTIA must review and approve the state's final proposal. And that is 3 of the 56 jurisdictions and states are there. In summary, states are nearly at the finish line. And it says to stop their progress now, or worse, to make them go backwards, would be a stick in the spokes of the most promising broadband deployment plans we have ever seen. End scene.
End scene.
It's awful.
I'm speechless. As honestly, like, it's far worse than I could have imagined. But the fact that they amputated their own legs on this is what's so stunning.
Again, but Jon Stewart is stunned because he's holding the wrong frame, which is that the point of all of this was to deliver broadband to American citizens whose taxpayer money was being
allegedly that was the
thrown
point.
into this furnace, right? That's not the point.
Mm-mm.
It's just like the mistake would be thinking, oh, the FDA is there to make sure that our drugs are safe. The CDC is there to make sure we have an appropriate pandemic response.
Yeah.
Like that's not the point. The point is for the maximum number of people to attach themselves and their paychecks to that machine and for the machine to never actually deliver on the results. It's kind of like when you pay people in California to cure homelessness and you pay them $250,000 a year, you know what you get? More homelessness.
Right.
Because that's how they keep their $250,000 a year paycheck.
That's right. That's like if you hire somebody and you pay them by the hour and they have no incentive to finish because then their money goes away instead of paying them for the project.
Correct.
Yes.
That's
incentives.
All right. Funky Wanderer always asking the good question.
How many Starlinks could that have delivered?
That is a great
Glad
question.
you asked.
So why don't we take a quick peek at that?
Oh my gosh.
So here's Grok to the rescue, right? So just look at
All
number 3
right.
there. Equipment, $599, right? Plus a year service.
1 year of service, $1,440 equals $2,039 per household. That's what it would cost.
Yeah, so
for one of
42 billion
these.
divided by that, 20.6 million households.
Wow, that's a big number.
20 million.
Why didn't we just do that?
Look down. Look, if you look down below your picture there, look for reference. We have 14 million households. We're in poverty, so we could have done all of them, 100% of poverty.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or no, you have to pay for your own internet. Otherwise, it's 70 million households, right?
Unbelievable.
So I think this is a mark of anyway. Obviously, we could have.
This is why empires fail.
It is.
Okay, you get to this point where it's so extravagant.
It
you
is.
lose the plot line. We've lost the plot line.
Correct. Speaking of the plot line, what is that one?
Definition of a socialist: someone who wants everything you have.
That's wrong. That is not. That is an over characterization because you have to add that.
Accept your job. Oh boy.
Correct, right? I mean, that's just where we are. And by the way, just as a quick aside, in El Salvador, with Bukele came in, stopped all their socialism, went and brought the military in, took out their gangs. You can see that homicides in El Salvador per 100,000 went from 103, then to 81, then 60, then 50, then 35, then 21, 18, 7, 2, 1.15. Vastly safer to be in El Salvador now than Baltimore, Chicago, DC, lots of places.
Wow.
In the so-called democratic paradise.
That's pretty amazing right there.
Of America.
This is what happens when you take the people doing the crime off the streets.
That's what happens.
Boom.
That is what happens. But they're very upset that people are losing their jobs in HHS. 10,000 people lost their jobs.
Take the jab or lose your job was totally fair, but do your job or get fired is tyranny. Make it make sense.
Well, here's yet another highly emotionally charged interaction. I won't subject you to the whole thing. Oh, too loud. Pull that down a little bit. So this guy pulls up in a Tesla. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Shame.
Shame?
I feel very, very sorry.
Shame? Shame? Yes.
Shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame. That's what they were shouting there. Shame. Shame. You and I are both thinking the same thing, right? You know
Yes.
that. You knew that.
That's why I wanted the bell.
All right. I threw these down. Obviously, this woman's being very critical. She's verbally attacking the character. Nazi, double fingers, right?
Mhm.
Contempt, shame, shame, shame. When I'm telling you shame, I have contempt for your
That's
whatever
right.
you did was shameful, is a contemptuous
Mhm.
thing. So they have contempt for this guy simply because he's in a Tesla. That's not okay. That's just not okay.
I'm so embarrassed by my fellow humans.
They've lost the plot line
I'm
here.
embarrassed.
I know.
I'm sad for them. I'm angry at them. I'm just gross.
Yeah.
Like I just, how many people just want to like, this isn't the world I signed up for. Can we just not do this?
How about not? Right. So
You
that's
know?
why, in my COVID coverage, I kept ending with sort of semi-cryptic but true statement, which was, it doesn't have to be this way.
Mhm.
It doesn't. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like,
I
we have
know.
some serious issues right now in this country
Mhm.
around energy, around too much debt, deficits, things we really have to solve. Our educational system has geared
Right.
people for something that's not ready for a world of AI,
Mhm.
let alone a world of manufacturing competitiveness
Yeah.
with the rest of the world.
Our
which we're gonna
food
have to
system
return
is a
back.
disaster.
Total
We really
disaster.
need to think about how we're farming
And what happened to the honeybees
how
this
to do
year?
that regeneratively. Yeah,
Right?
I don't know. That's terrifying.
We have some big things that are not being solved by this crowd. Obviously, not saying we're the bastion of solving all things, but this is wasted energy, wasted,
Yeah,
wasted,
it is.
deflective. But if we want to see this on display, we could do no better, no worse
No, I used to like him.
than
I think
John
everybody should
Cusack.
really enjoy taking this guy down and the stock down, and because of the example it will set,
I'm really going to enjoy taking this guy Elon down and his stock down, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to that's what he's going to really enjoy, taking the stock down of Elon. And why is that, John?
nothing's going to. We are in an oligarchic country that's fascist and becoming more fascist every day, and that means people are going to die, and it's going to get as ugly as we can think. And the only way to stop that is if the people who have the money are afraid of us, the 99%. And it's the people who own the society, the owners, those people. We have to make them really afraid. And what's happening now with Musk is making them very afraid, and that's a good thing.
The only way to stop that, which is this attack on our democracy, is if the people who have the money are afraid of us. Okay, John. I just got a note, John. You are one of them. You're not in the 99%.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Not even close.
You
Okay.
want to throw your hat in the ring, you better own up to the idea that you are definitely.
His hat. You mean his culturally appropriating do-rag?
Yeah, what is that he's wearing? He's getting ready to be in Karate Kid, another horrible remake of a perfectly good movie.
Don't know, but yeah, anyway, he's displaying one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse of relationships. But speaking of which, there is some good news here too. It is FAFO time. And here, this is going to be very loud. Let me make sure I control the volume on this before I let this one out of the gate.
I'm not hearing it like you are.
Oh, you're not?
Something must be different about mine.
Oh, well, you got to have it all the way in the ear canal there. You got to really poke it in there. Yeah.
It's not loud.
All right, here's this person. So remember, Evie, when the truckers in Canada got taken down, it turned out that all these people, not just the truckers, but people who gave to the truckers to support them,
doxed, right?
They gave money through Give, Send, Go, and the whole list got doxed out. And then the Canadian government used that to go after and freeze people's bank accounts and do some very highly illegal, immoral, unethical things and all of that. It turns out that this is the person who is taking credit for having done the doxing, who hacked into the Give, Send, Go system.
The truckers. I did it. It was me. I hacked Give, Send, Go, baby. And I do it again.
Like he's looking for
I
reaction.
do it 100 times. I did it. I did it. Come at me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to me, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Taunting.
What are we going to do to him? Oh,
U.S. Attorney's Office from Western District of Texas released. The Department of Justice announced the unsealing of charges against Canadian national Aubrey Cottle, 37, of Oshawa, Ontario, in connection with the theft of data relating to the Texas Republican Party in 2021. Canadian authorities arrested Cottle on Wednesday and are pursuing charges under Canadian law.
Oops. That's terrible.
So that's what it was for this, though?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Hacked in. And Texas obviously can't charge him because Canadians were harmed. They found that people inside the Texas Republican Party had been part of that data dump. So they had to file the charge within the jurisdiction they could.
See.
Right.
That makes sense.
They have to have standing. So the
Yes.
standing is Texans were involved. Right.
Don't mess with Texas.
That was the FAFO time. And then we're going to close. This is coming into this home stretch here. So in Wisconsin, they had an election for Supreme Court. And it was between a Republican and a Democrat. And the Democrat won. I have questions about that. But Susan Crawford. So here she is in, here's what you want in your Supreme Court justice. You want to know that they're balanced, that they are composed, that they are, like did you see during Trump's inaugural speech and that whole proceeding, there were Supreme Court justices there, not all of them. None of them stood up, none of them clapped. That's by convention, right? They're supposed to just be, they wouldn't do it for either side.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because that's what you want. Justice is impartial.
That's right.
See if you can hear any possible hint that there's sort of an activist, let's call it partial flavor to Susan.
So today, Wisconsinites fended off an unprecedented attack on our democracy.
An unprecedented attack on our democracy. That's called voting. I'm not kidding.
No, that is what it is.
But they perceive it as an attack.
Our fair elections and our Supreme Court. And Wisconsins stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale.
Look at that look.
Oh, it's gross.
That is smug.
That is smug.
That is a smug look. I am so sorry, Wisconsin. You are about to put up with, I predict, want to see my prediction?
Yeah, what's your prediction?
Well, first of all, just a little context. Let's remember, this is Wisconsin in 2020 with that mysterious little So I have my questions about the Wisconsin voting system. I do. And so Candy Farm and Garden says, rigged outcome. Totally agree. It's a good chance of that. I have questions, right? How could you not have questions? That's what happened. Was anything fixed or changed? No. Therefore, it's still a problem. But here's the prediction. You're going to get some legally untethered, is the politest way I can say it. Those are activist decisions because we have to talk about the fact that liberal, can I just say it straight up? Liberal white women, there's a problem here that we need to talk about at some point and have a larger discussion around. There's something wrong with there is no room for activism in the judiciary. As soon as you get activism, you end up with Brazil, and we talked about that last time, where there was a woman who just painted on a statue with lipstick and got a 14-year sentence, a $6 million fine, 2 young children, not going to know their mom during their childhood years, because that's what you get with activist judges, right? We just saw this in France with Marine Le Pen, sentenced to 2 years in prison. Why? They had trumped up charges, which we could go into some other time, but mostly it was because she was the front runner. And this is what an activist judiciary gives you. Not even the appearance of the rule of law, let alone the actuality of it. What you get is lawlessness with a judge's robe wrapped around it. And that, I unfortunately predict, is part of what's coming to Wisconsin. So that's why it brings us to this whole concept of a national divorce, right? Because in a national divorce, you have to just say, okay, if you want to run your own lives that way, feel free, run your own lives that way. But maybe we should carve out pieces of the country for that. Wisconsin, parts of Washington State, Oregon, California, pick your places. Maybe there are places where we just go, okay, have at it. You be you. Good luck with that. But if you look at what's happened to activist judges and how it's delivering a absolute destruction of prosperity, say in the UK, it's now completely obvious that it's a very destructive way to go forward. And for those of us who don't want to participate in that what's the choice? You either submit to it or you fight it. You know what? The relationship isn't working out. So it's time to call an audible. And maybe there's an amicable separation. That is what we're calling for here on this show, is this idea that maybe we have to have that conversation, because at a minimum, the conversation says, okay, that's too much. We have to think of the children. Maybe we should go to counseling. Maybe we have to find some way to work this out. But I submit that when the left figures out that the right wants to walk away, that is, the abstractionists find out that the people who fix everything and make everything no longer want to support them in their delusions, they may wake up a little bit and suddenly have a different realization about how this all has to go. That's the conversation we need to have. I know I'm painting with a very broad brush and it's not entirely true, but on balance, I think that's a fair statement. There's people who live in reality. They get the oil out of the ground. They make sure the transmission lines are operating. They make sure the food is grown. They make sure that, you know, the electrons come out of the wall socket when you need it and all that. And then there are the abstractionists who think in terms like our democracy, you know, the greatest assault to democracy ever, people voting. It's like, oh no.
Or people on January 6th too, the way that got spun.
Absolutely.
Was the greatest, you know, insurrection of all time, when it was people just going out to protest.
Yep.
And actually being less violent than people are being right now with Tesla.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and maybe it's state by state, right? Clarence saying maybe New Hampshire needs to divorce, you know?
Yeah, and Count Don, that was an interesting one. Are we at official civil war yet, or are we still pretending it's not happening?
There's a little pretending going on right now.
I think there might be.
Because there's the Civil War where you put on different color uniforms and you shoot at each other. That's what we think of, but it's more than that, right? It's it's when you have an ideological divide that's no longer crossable, right? So I think we already have that one in place.
I think so too. Sadly,
don't know. I mean, got to call it like you see it, right?
You do. You do.
And so, yeah, and this goes way back. You're right, Christopher. This goes way back. So. It's an old story. It's a very old story. So, Evie, what do you got?
Well, I got a couple things.
And then I have one slide to end this whole thing. So.
What? No.
Just one.
No, I get the... All right, fine.
I got one.
This is from a book called Nature and the Human Soul by Bill Plotkin. He's an excellent writer who talks a lot about like what would raising healthy people look like. He's very much somebody who believes in the natural world as being a fantastic teacher for people. And I was particularly taken with talking about like the disappearance of elders from our landscape, which is a kind of a different thing, but it's also not. Like, we're talking about all these liberal white women who are like, our younger people are looking at what they're doing and learning from them right now. And they actually have a different obligation to our society, which is to be a good example of how to coexist. And it's not happening.
Right. Good point.
Right. So I'm just calling on eldership here. And he, Thomas Aquinas, I think that's how you say it, says, in addition to the catastrophic loss of species and habitat in recent centuries, we have witnessed the correlated disappearance of authentic elders. I asked Thomas, so this at the moment is Bill Plotkin speaking, why so few of our senior citizens become true elders. For him, deficits in human development and environmental devastation both are tied to our individual and collective alienation from the natural world. And Thomas Aquinas says, one reason for the lack of personal development is that we live in a society where there's almost universal effort to be what a person is not. There's constant effort to adapt to the circumstances in which we find ourselves, and this diminishes the capacity for authenticity. The times have changed so much. It's almost impossible now to grow up with any integral sense of who we are. We have to adapt to so many situations that are to some extent not natural. We don't have contact with the natural world. We don't know what the natural world is. We are adapting to an invented world, to a manipulated world. We learn manipulation, and we are manipulated. And we learn to manipulate in order to survive. And much of our education is learning how to survive in a world of mutual manipulation and mutual exploitation, all under the guise of assisting people to advance their careers or to develop a way of life. And another quote that I pulled from this same book was by somebody named Terry Tempest Williams, who says, "The eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they are praying for us to see beyond our own time. They are kneeling with hands clasped that we might act with restraint, that we might leave room for the life that is destined to come. To protect what is wild is to protect what is gentle. Perhaps the wildness we fear is the pause between our own heartbeats, the silent space that says we live only by grace. Wilderness lives by this same grace. Wild mercy is in our hands."
So it speaks to that nature is real, but we live in our manipulated world of abstractions. Yeah.
We got to come back to center.
Well, very good. So, well, that's what I want to say. My favorite Gary Larson. So until next week, adios, amigos.
Thanks for being with us, everyone. We hope you have a really fantastic week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week at the same time.
Next week, same time. And remember, this is the Signal Hour every Wednesday at 1:00. Come by peakprosperity.com if you want content like this pretty much all week long, plus a community to go along with it. People like you. That's where the tribe gathers. Thoughtful, curious, difficult to offend people. That's who we are. So
Come
with that,
find us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you next week. All right. Bye for now.